Welcome this morning to mind-body recovery session. So in this session, we do a lot of different mobilizing of the joints and the muscles and just take attention to a lot of good stretches. So today we're going to do a little bit of myofascial release. And so something you'll need is a ball. This is just a racket ball. You can grab a squishier mobility ball. Tennis ball works, a dog toy, something that's firm and round. It doesn't necessarily have to be this small. It can be a little bit bigger. If you absolutely don't have anything, when we're doing some of these things around the neck, obviously the back of your shoulders, you won't be able to. You could try to find, I guess a hard water bottle for some of the areas, but neck and shoulders, you'll really want something like this. And then it doesn't have to be a foam roller, but something to just prop underneath your knee when we're doing a side lying. Could be a yoga block, a couple books, or a couple pillows or something like that. And if you don't have it, it's not that big of a deal. Just feel better on your sacrum when we do that. Okay, so welcome again to Mind Body Recovery, and I am Jena with the JCC here this morning. All right, so let's go ahead and take a spot on the ground, since we're kind of seated here to begin with. And legs can be out in front if that's too hard to sit that way. You can bend your knees, cross your ankles, whatever allows you to be comfortable to basically sit up and down. So I want you to imagine there's a wall on each side of you, maybe about, a foot away or a little bit further. So your pinky is going to lead, and you're going to go along that wall without rotating your trunk. You're going to keep that palm facing the wall and then come back over again, palm facing the wall. So pinky leads, palm faces the wall the entire time. Thumb will be facing up in the back. So we're not forcing our arm to stay in close. If it needs to come out a little bit, let it go out. So whatever feels comfortable. Starting to really move that humerus and that shoulder joint. A lot of you will notice, like I'm a prime example, when we get to a certain point, that arm just goes out. We don't really have that extension in our shoulder, which is internal rotation back there. So again, palm is facing your wall right now. We're going to do 2 more on this side. Reaching, thinking about someone pulling your arm out of your shoulder socket as you bring it around. Good. And then other side. And you might not even realize it, but you tend to want to shrug to get it around, and we want to avoid that as well. So I'm trying not to look at myself in the camera, because then my eyes play tricks on me where my palm is. So pinky leads. Good. Palm is going up against that wall. Again, try your hardest not to rotate through the rib cage. And you're challenging the range, but you're not forcing anything that creates pain. You might feel some pops and clicks or hear some snaps, things like that, as long as it doesn't cause any pinching pain or discomfort. That's okay. 2 more on this side. Pinky side leads still. Good. All right, so we're just going to alternate doing some shoulder rolls each side. And you can even start to move the neck around while you're doing your shoulder rolls. Again, anytime we have some audible sounds in our necks, shoulder, thinking about it, your eardrum is right here, so kind of normal. You probably have the same little clicks and pops in your ankles and your knees and your hips. You just don't hear them all the time. Good. Start to roll those shoulders the opposite way. So we're really getting some nice motion through the shoulder blades, and you can kind of keep moving that neck around gently wherever you want to. hard to just kind of let the neck and the shoulders move together. They tend to be so stiff and rigid up there. So I just wanted to get some motion going in the shoulders. We're going to do a little bit more, and then we're going to do some myofascial release and do some other shoulder motions. So fingertips will be by your shoulders, and you're just drawing the biggest circles that you can with your elbows, going in one direction. So checking out, so I'm trying to come way back here, slide my elbows as if they're going to the floor. And again, maybe your head wants to look down for a couple circles. Maybe it wants to look up or to the side while you're doing this, because everything is all connected by your soft tissue, your muscles. Tendons are the ends of your muscles. Ligaments are completely separate. They don't contract and lengthen. Switch directions. That's why when we tear a ligament, we need to repair it with a surgery, for the most part. Circles around. Again, play with the shoulders so we switch directions. If you didn't hear me say that. Also just exaggerating my breathing to remind you to not hold your breath when you're doing these things. And let's take those arms down to the side. So since we're here, we're going to work a little bit on the hips. Extending one leg, and I want you to cross the other ankle above the knee. So it's a figure 4. We normally do this when we're seated in a chair as well. But we're going to pull that knee in towards the midline of the body, getting a nice lengthening out here. You'll even feel that in your back. And then you might want to hang on to support it so it doesn't strain the other leg, and you're going to push the knee away from you. Pulling in and push. Continue to go back and forth like this. Now maybe your ankle doesn't quite come up above your knee joint. Well, then you just modify and you put it down on the ground if that feels better. Pushing away, pulling up. Just allows you to go a little bit more into hip flexion to really get that piriformis muscle. And let's go ahead and go to the other side now. Ankle above the knee, or go ahead and bring that ankle to the floor. Pulling into that midline, supporting and pushing away. And by all means, you can hold it longer in one direction or the other. You don't have to keep staying with me. Maybe it feels good to just stay here for a little bit longer. Supporting my ankle so it just doesn't dig down into my thigh. Good. Let's do one more on this side. So this is where I would like you to go ahead and grab something that you can do a little bit of massaging, if you will. So we're actually going to start down on our forearms, away from our neck and shoulders, and we'll kind of work our way up there. So if you have a chair or a table or something, it might be a little bit easier. I'm just going to work on coming to the floor. So we're going to start with our palms and then the wrists on this side. So, and you can just stay seated too if you want to with this one. So whatever works. So just kind of spreading those fingers out, just making some circles. This is where you could use a water bottle, you know, going this way and then turn your water bottle and go side to side if you want to. But, you know, with the ball, just move around, find some different areas. You can just get that whole surface area of your palm this is where it's probably going to be a little bit more inflamed if you have any inflammation. So those of you that have had issues throughout your life, perhaps with your carpal tunnel starting to narrow, right? These are key things. Even if you've already had that area repaired and surgically, you're still gonna go, 50-50 chance you'll go back to the same concept, and that area is gonna narrow. So you need to really stay on top of these things. And those of us that don't have those issues, we just want to keep doing this so that we stay on top of it as well, and we may not develop that. Chances are we're not going to change our life habits and patterns for the most part, especially if you get these things from your work. And again, like I said, the pad of the thumb is probably going to be the most sensitive. And let's go ahead and start moving to our wrist. And you can go lengthwise with those fibers. Just go ahead and start going that whole length of the wrist here. You can go side to side gently. And we don't need to put a lot of pressure on this because, let's face it, there's a lot of nerves and small little tendons, right? I'm just getting my timer set so you can kind of see. Otherwise, I get going and spend too much time on one spot. We want to get a little bit of everything today. So flip it over and start getting the back side of your forearm as well. Way up by your elbow, right? Slow it down and really find those spots that are tense. You can come back to your hand a little bit again if you'd like. And we're going to take a break on this side. Okay. And we're going to work on just moving the wrist around now that we just loosened up all of those connective tissues, circling in different directions. Resting your hand on your thigh, you're going to pull one thumb up at a time. We're all guilty of it. Well, I can't put everyone in the same bucket, but who sits and does their finger stretches every day and their toe stretches every single day, right? You don't want to wait until you have terrible arthritis to start doing these things. And just start to open and close your hand a little bit, stretching out those muscles. And let's go ahead and go to that other side. So we're going to go ahead and start doing the hand a little bit here, palm, surface area. So a common thing for when you're doing any form of massage or myofascial release is you might feel burning or tingling or itching even. You're releasing a lot of toxins in those muscles, in those cells. So make sure you're drinking lots of water afterwards when you do things like this or while you're doing them to help flush all that out, help give your kidneys a little bit of help. And you're also stimulating those nerve endings too. Let's start to go into the forearm, wrist. Again, slow and controlled. Those of you that have inflammation of your tendons, which are your muscles, tendonitis, maybe you've been diagnosed with golfer's elbow or tennis elbow. That's all that is inflammation of your tendons, right? So Could be for all sorts of different reasons. Don't forget to go to the back side of your forearm. But again, these are great ways to start to loosen them up, to do your mobility and strengthening activities to help get rid of that tendonitis. There's a reason it's happening. Something has to change or it will not go away. Go ahead. And you can go back to your palm again if you haven't revisited it yet. And let's go ahead and just start making those wrist circles on this side. Changing directions. And placing that hand on your thigh and gently pulling up one fingertip at a time. So those of you who have not done any soft tissue work with like a ball or any tool, foam roller, doesn't have to be anything fancy. 30 seconds to a minute, kind of on each area, and move on, immobilize it. You can spend, the more you do of this, the longer you can spend on it. Your tissues will start to adapt to that, but a little bit more regularly, just like everything else, goes a long way. It's better to exercise every single day versus 1 hour a week, right? So try to sprinkle those sessions out, get your body in those habits and stay on top of it. So we are going, so let's go ahead and close and open the hand as well. So we are going to make our way to a very tight area for most of us, which is going to be the back of your neck. So I do not want you to be afraid to get on the base of your skull. So you'll find your bone, and you can even go right on that bone. All of your muscles attached there. If you look at the anatomy, you have these big, huge erectors and all kinds of other muscles that are attaching, and then they're just branching off and going down. So there's a lot of tension there, the origin and then the insertion of a lot of these different muscles. But we're going to pay attention or try to move here. So easiest way to do this is almost like hold the ball when you're laying on it in place, and then just turn your head or you can just massage it. Now, not everyone wants to go on the floor. You can do the same thing up against the wall if you would like to. I'm just laying on the floor. I don't really have a wall very available to me right now. So laying on the floor. And also some of us have our necks are in this forward posture, so we really don't have a very big curve in our neck. And so when we go to lay down, everything's like this versus being able to lay and get those muscles. So you might have to position different things, a towel or something like that underneath your head or your neck or underneath the ball to kind of get it to push into those muscles. So all we're doing is spending some time on this side, okay? On one side, you're going from the base of your skull, and you're going to work your way down towards the shoulder, top of the shoulder area, upper neck. So we've got 2 minutes on this side. And again, easiest way is just hold that ball in place with your fingertips and then turn side to side. If you find a spot that's pretty intense, it's okay to just hold there. The headphone is falling off. Sorry if you didn't hear that. If you find a spot that's significantly intense, you just hold that spot a little bit and breathe and just kind of let those muscles sink into your ball. And we're just saying no. That's probably the easiest way to do the neck, is holding the ball solid while you turn the head and roll those muscles over your ball, slowly making your way down your neck. So depending upon the size of the ball, right, it'll depend upon how much pressure you have. These racket ball, or these lacrosse balls, we have to really kind of push into them to maybe feel them because they're pretty small. Tennis balls a little bit bigger. A ball that's actually meant for mobility is even bigger yet than a tennis ball and pushes in a little bit easier. So continue to work your way down your neck. And get right next to, at the very bottom as well, get right next to that spine and the base of your shoulder, where the neck and shoulder come together. Just kind of dig into those traps a little bit. And if you found you were really sensitive on the base of the skull, which chances are you are, you need to put a lot more attention to that area. That could be a big culprit for a lot of shoulder issues, a lot of tension headaches, a lot of migraines. You can treat it superficial. But remember, you need to make sure you're doing the dirty work to figure out where the sources are coming from. Superficial, I mean pain meds, right? Anti-inflammatories. All right, so that was 2 minutes on that side. You're going to now move over to that other side, starting on the base of the skull. If you weren't quite sure what I meant when I said the neck, just this area right in here. So I went from here, moved all the way down, and I really dug in on the inside of my, or outside of my spine and into that muscle right there. So you're going to your other side for a couple of minutes. And you do not have to keep moving the head around. And if you do, remember, do it slow and deliberately. Try, the faster you do these things, number one, you risk kind of straining something. But faster, they're going to be less effective. The other thing I want to bring to everyone's attention is you might not be used to putting a lot of attention to these muscles, so they're naturally going to respond after the session. We might feel loose right after, but they might get a little bit sore, if you will, right? Because that's just, you're manipulating those tissues. You're stretching them out. It's no different than if you get a little sore from a massage. The nice thing about this is you get to control the pressure that you put onto your muscles. You're in control where you go, which not everyone likes to be in control. But just like everything else, the more you do these things, more frequently, your tissues start to respond. You won't get as sore from it. You'll recover real quick. and the benefits will last a lot longer. So you might look at your screen. I'm supporting my head because I'm really getting down to that base of my neck right now. And if I just relax my head on the ground, there's not a lot of pressure. If I lift it up and just support it with my hand, I can have the weight almost of my neck pressed down onto that ball. A couple more seconds here on this side. Good. So I want us to move down. I'm just going to check our time here. I want us to move down to our trapezius area. So, and then we're going to start doing some weird shoulder motions. So I want you to get right in this area along that muscle. So you've got your shoulder blades here, right? Your bones out to the side. Just this whole meaty area where we tend to do our little neck massages. You know, someone was to grab here. So play around with this area. And then also get the back of your shoulder right in here. The back of that shoulder joint, even onto your deltoid. So those two areas. So we're going to go back to that first side. And we're going to spend a good 2-3 minutes on that side as well. And then I'll tell you when to switch over to the other side. And then we'll do some good mobility things. So if you're up against the wall, you can do the same thing. This is where you're pushing that ball, whatever you have, and you're just kind of moving around gently, side to side. Those of you that are home, you can kind of see that white ball and where it's located. Breathe through it. Again, if you find what we call a hot spot, or like, oh, that one's really intense, then just hold it there a little bit and breathe. If you don't want to sit and move around and wiggle your body, you can keep the ball into those tissues and start moving the arm around and do a pinning and pressing type motion where it's still doing the same benefit. In fact, it feels a little bit better, I think, in my opinion, to pin and press and then move the arm around. So you can really start to realize which motions are being blocked by those muscles. So what if you have a rotator cuff muscle that you've had an MRI and your surgeon says, we're not going to repair it, it's torn, but it's not completely torn. Or you have strained muscles that never really replenished. These are things we need to be doing all the time to stay on top of it. Or you develop a really poor movement pattern in the shoulder blade and all those muscles that control the shoulder blade. Whoops. All right. So now we're going to move to that other side and begin. So again, upper traps moving along that top part of the shoulder, neck area where it comes together. And you can pin and press, or you can just move around a little bit. forget to get a little bit in the back of the shoulder if you haven't. Forgot to remind you on the other side. If you've never done anything like this and this is the first time and you're feeling major tension in these muscles and you might call it pain, this is something that is kind of a necessity for you to put just a little bit, like I said, a couple minutes each side every day will go a long way. All right, that's our time on that side. So I'm going to have us all come to a standing position. And we're going to start doing some weird shoulder. I mean, you can sit in a chair if you would like to, but we don't have a chair here, so we're going to stand. So we're going to do some different shoulder motions here. Kind of like, feel like you're really moving the body and undulating. So I want you to just kind of dive in with the back of your hand. Your fingertips will come together, and then you're going to roll those shoulders and open up to the back. And then again, round and dive in. Squeeze the back sides of those elbows towards each other and open up and let them fall open. Once again, come up and around, press the backs of the hands together, round that upper back over. And one more time, open up. Good. So you're going to have those arms out to the side. And I want you to turn one palm down and around, roll that shoulder, and then bring it back up and turn the palm up. So palm goes down, roll that shoulder, palm goes up, and good. So concentrating on this side, flip it over. You're getting a lot of motion in your shoulder here. Some of you aren't even going to be able to roll that humerus around in your shoulder socket. That's why we need to do more and more and more of those things. And around, good. And this is so much easier to do when those tissues have been manipulated or played around with, just like silly putty. Now we're stretching the silly putty out. One more time on this side. Good. And now I want you to take one arm and you're wrapping something around your head. Keeping it as close as you can. If you're up here, very little motion in that shoulder. Try to really get to the outside of the head, around the face, around the back side. I'm just making a fist. Whatever works best for you. You can have your hands straight. Let's go the other direction. And let's go this side. Start wrapping around, keeping your hand as close as you can to your face. Don't force anything. Some of you might have to be up and around here, and that's it. All around. And then you're going to switch directions. Taking those fingers and pressing or interlacing them, pressing the palms away, and you're going to round your back over and then start to come up as far as you can with those hands while your upper back's rounded over, and then lift up and arch your back. Pinkies travel to the back of the room. Let the hips come forward. And we're going to come back down again. Round it over. Press your palms away. Press your arms away. Hollow out that body. Tuck that chin under. Start to bring the arms up while you hold that rounded upper back. Go as high as they allow you to go. And then open up. Chest. Pinkies to the back of the room. One more time. Round it over. Press the palms away. Tuck the chin. Hands only. Arms only. Come up towards the ceiling. Then follow with your body. Chest out. Pinky side back. And let's let those arms come down and around. Good. So activating those muscles, the elbow is going to stay straight. We've done these before in a kneeling position. So we're taking that arm bone and moving it around in the shoulder socket. So this is technically a strengthening exercise for all those little muscles that are working to move that humerus. I mean, your chest is also working. Chest is working coming forward, back muscles, but a lot of the shoulders. And you're going to reverse the direction. It's like a piston motion. Some of you are wanting to do this with the elbow. Just lock that elbow out. It's the down and back motion that we are the most deconditioned in. Down and back. So slow it down if you need to. Good. And then let that arm just hang. Swing it around a little bit. Do this controlled, but just let it kind of come around and then sweep down, sweep down. And switch directions. Sweep it down. Let it kind of come down, but make sure you don't jerk anything. Good. Other side. You feel like you got a little workout inside that shoulder joint, right? All right. That's part of recovery, though, is to make sure you're using things right. So we're going to go ahead and do the little piston motion here where we're shrugging up, coming down and back, up. Back, so kind of concentrating in that motion. So if I could see everyone's shoulder blades, there'd be a lot of shoulder blade kind of motion going on here, as well as the arms just kind of moving up and around. We're going to switch directions. And this is also really great. I mean, part of your shoulder joint is your clavicle, so your sternoclavicular joint should have a little bit of motion, and then your acromioclavicular joint up here, your AC joint. Number one thing that tends to have some instability in there. So we're going that other direction. Remember, the back and the down are the hardest motions for us to get used to doing. And that's it. Just kind of swing it at your side. And when you're ready, go in one direction and just let it come around and scoop down. Let gravity do its work. And then we reverse that direction. Push it down, down. Make sure it's somewhat controlled so you don't strain anything. Good. So we're going to come to the floor here. And I want us to do one more. We're just going to really stretch out the posterior deltoid since you kind of worked all those tissues. So coming onto your hands and your, actually we'll come onto our belly here, okay? And your arm is going to come in front, or the bottom arm will come in front of your chest, basically. Try not to let it come up by your face. And then you're gonna lay your chest onto that upper arm and work on just relaxing your forehead to the ground. If you feel a big pinching in the front or the top of your shoulder joint, couple little adjustments you can make is just really, again, make sure that arm is underneath you. It's not shrugged up here. So you're on the side of your deltoid. Should be a big space between your head and the floor. Then come back again and go into it slowly. A big stretch in the posterior capsule of your shoulder there. You should feel your chest kind of pressing down onto your upper arm. And from here, you're going to turn your head and look towards that shoulder you're stretching out. And bring it back. We're going to try that other side. So I'm just going to turn, face the other side so we can see. So we're getting that bottom shoulder underneath us. Mistake is to shrug the shoulder up, get right underneath, and lay that chest towards your forearm, or your upper arm, sorry. Forehead starts to go to the floor. The bigger space you can create between your ear and your shoulder, the better. And concentrate on the exhale when you're holding these stretches, because you don't realize where you're holding tension. And start to turn the head, the eyes towards the shoulder that you're stretching. And bring everything back up. So we didn't do a lot of like foam rolling or anything mobilizing on our back, but that's okay. I want us to go through this stretch again just because I love it so much. But this is where you'll want a block, a pillow, a couple books or something to put underneath your top knee. So my bottom leg is going to be straight on the ground, and I just put my object out in front, enough the length of my leg, so just my knee is resting on there. Maybe if it's a long object, it can be your lower leg as well. You stack yourself on that bottom shoulder again. This is going to help you keep your knee up so that it's a little bit more level from the hip, because if our knee comes down to the ground, it can be a lot of strain on that sacroiliac joint. I don't want to cause any extra overstretching that we're not ready for yet. And it can also pinch in the hip joint. So it just kind of creates a little more space, a little more comfort there. Try to lay your head onto the floor. If it absolutely does not touch the floor, you might have to create a pillow or put a t-shirt or something underneath your towel. And then this is the one where we sweep the fingertips along the floor and open up and get the back of the shoulder blade towards the ground. And now you have something to drive your knee into to lengthen through that stretch. And we're just going to hold this for a little bit today. Learning to relax. I just did an exhale and I could feel my whole lower back just start to release. Didn't even know I was resisting against the stretch with my low back. Continue to exhale longer. You can do a gentle press down into your roller, your block, whatever it is, your book, with your inside of your top knee. If it creates any discomfort in your sacral joint, just relax it. Body, just feel that start to relax more and more and more. Turn your head so you're looking in the same direction as your back is facing. Very slowly turn that head back up towards the ceiling and bring that back arm around the top of your head, fingertips on the floor, just the same way you got into it, all the way until that hand stacks on top of the other one. And we now move to the other side. So we all have different points of tension where muscles are originating. So there's not really one specific place you should feel this or should not feel this. It's really wherever your weakest link is and wherever your tightnesses are. Some of us it's your shoulder, some of it's the back, some of it's the hip, whatever. It's a nice all-encompassing stretch, and I try to do it a lot with all of us. So we're on that other side. Once you get that knee up, you're going to sweep those fingertips away. Keep that knee in contact with that object. And breathe. Breathe into wherever you think your tension is. Creating space between the ear and the shoulder of the arm that's behind your back. You can gently press that knee, inside of that knee, into your pillow or your block or your books. If it causes any pain, release. But after a few seconds or so, you can release anyways. We're also going to start to turn those eyes towards the wall behind you. Remember long exhales to just release those tissues. Very restorative. So go ahead and turn the head back towards the ceiling. Start to sweep those fingertips slowly along the floor and over your head like a big rainbow, all the way back to where they started from. And bring ourselves up to a seated position. Going to go ahead and put ourselves in this little froggy position here. So our knees, you might want to go sideways on your mat or put little pillow underneath your knees. Your knees are going to go wide. Normally we have our toes. You can kind of see my toes are together here. I want you to actually try to bring your toes out, and so the insides of your feet are resting on the floor. And then you'll gently bring your forearms down to the ground here. And we're actually going to add some thoracic rotation while we're in this position. So you're going to keep the left forearm on the ground, and your right hand comes by your head, and you're going to rotate towards that wall. And bring it back. You're not trying to hold yourself up. You're trying to let gravity just relax down. If it's too much on your knees, then you just bring your toes in towards each other a little bit. So not everyone has good internal rotation in their hip. So go ahead and rotate to the left as you press your right forearm into the ground. And you can even see, of course, I would never pretend to have awesome mobility, but our shoulders should stack over the other way. So one more time each side, taking your time. Yes, you're using a little bit of your core here, of course. So from here, we start to walk the forearms forward onto the floor, and then lay your chest down. Let your elbows go out to the sides of the room. So we're still in our little froggy position. Remember, some of you might have to bring your heels in towards each other. So Mary, see if you can walk out a little further with your forearms. So her hips still up in the air. So keep walking forward more so you can lay your whole belly. Yes, good. So you might have to bring those toes or those heels towards each other. There we go, good. And not everyone's feet are going to lay onto the ground. Some are going to be stuck up in the air like this, right? Just let gravity do its job, and your legs can be out wide, or you can start to bring your heels towards each other, or just keep playing around with that motion. If your hips are still popped up in the air, make sure that you walked far enough forward that you can lay your belly on the ground. And keep moving those feet around. Some of you, as you bring your heels towards each other, they might be way up here in the air. And again, that's fine. It's just letting the weight of the lower legs stretch the hip socket out. It's a ball and socket joint, and you can feel the pressure in your sacrum area, like the very back of your glutes, sacroiliac joint, because it's stretching there as well. I also want you to work on, while we're in this froggy position, I want you to bring the insides of your ankles towards the ground, and then bring the outside of your ankle towards the ceiling, so the bottoms of the feet are going towards the ceiling. Perfect. Ooh, they want to cramp on me. Again, not everyone is going to have a very big motion, just like anywhere else we concentrate on. And you don't necessarily have a mirror, but something I'll look at for clients is one might be way up here and one might only be able to go this far. That's a major imbalance in right to left side. So we need to be doing corrective exercises to help that. Part of it is just working on this and holding the leg up and strengthening those muscles. All right, now to get out of this, let's just straighten out the knees and start to bring the toes and the heels together and just wiggle around a little bit while you're here. Just kind of move your hips around. You can do bent knees, you can do straight knees, side to side. And while we're here on our bellies, let's go ahead and take the last 2 minutes to just stretch out the side of the neck. So we're going to turn your head to one side. So either the right or the left ear is on the floor and the side of the head. And let's have our palms facing up because that's just a little bit more comfortable for most of us. And just lay here and relax, and I'll tell you when to switch sides. Now, if you notice as you're laying here that only your cheek or your chin is touching the floor, over time, as you start to work on those neck muscles and do more myofascial release or massage, and you keep working on mobilizing and strengthening the neck area and the shoulders, you'll get some more mobility and you'll be able to have the ear and the temple laying into the ground in the back side of your jaw. Let's go to the other side now. Turn that head. More seconds on this side. Make sure you're breathing into those neck muscles with a nice inhale and exhale. And you can slowly bring yourself back up to a seated position, whatever way is comfortable for you. So I hope you guys are okay with everything that we focused in on today. And I will see you next week for our little recovery session as well. And in the meanwhile, hopefully you can take some of these things with you and practice.